Hey guys, it's Phil.
And Liam.
And this month, Die Hard on a Blank is taking a quick hiatus.
We're getting too old for this shit.
Well, yes, but specifically we're focusing on other things and taking a well-needed break.
But we know how hard it is for you to not hear our voices.
That's right, Liam, and that's why we're offering you a special treat.
If you visit patreon.com/48 hours of buddy movies, you can get a $5 subscription for just $3.
That's just $3 a month for new episodes as well as the entire back catalogue of 48 hours of buddy movies. And this promotion is running for the entire month of August.
And us, we'll be sitting on the beach, earning 20%.
So enter DHOAB Break 40 at patreon.com/48 hours of buddy movies anytime this month.
That's DHOAB BREAK 40.
See you on the Patreon. Welcome to 48 Hours of Buddy Movies, the podcast where we explore the influence of 48 hours on action cinema, one buddy movie at a time. I'm Philip Gawthorne, and with me as always is Liam Billingham, and today's film is Lethal Weapon 2.
It's a buddy movie with a recovering burnout and still another family man. He hasn't changed at all, folks. He's the same great guy.
So, Liam Billingham, Esquire, this is a big, big movie for you.
Yes, to say the least.
So this is kind of going to be your... I'm very happy to take a little step back today and give you more space to just cook on this one.
How I think this is maybe the greatest action movie of the 80s. Maybe the greatest action movie. But that, I say that with a lot of caveats, which I think we can get into.
Well, one of my first questions for you is, like, do you think this is the greatest film of the Lethal Weapon series?
How much time do we have? No, I think this is one of the cases where, I feel mixed on this sometimes because, sometimes you can say like I think the best quote unquote Star Wars movie is The Empire Strikes Back. It's the best made. It's the best, but you can't have it without the original.
Right.
But I think in the case of Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 2 doesn't work without Lethal Weapon 1. Donner's famous for saying that he thought of this less as Lethal Weapon 2 and more as Lethal Weapon 1.5.
Interesting.
And I think that's really important. And I think that this is like one of the template sequels of all time. So I do think that they're in such a clear conversation that at the very least, it's like Lethal Weapon 1 has it by like an inch, but like that does not take away from like the pure... This is maybe the high water mark for the series just the same.
It's funny because this never really gets talked about in the greatest sequels of all time, which usually the ones that would be cited would be Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2, Aliens, Godfather 2.
Right.
This one is rarely cited on that list, but I think it has a case to say that it absolutely could be considered one of the greatest sequels of all time.
Well, and without getting into it too much, I think there's an actor at the center of this movie that makes it a little complicated to talk about it in those terms. But to me, it's like, let's put it this way. This is when this series cooks. And I think the 3 is also good. I don't think it's nearly as good as 1 or 2. And 4 is obviously the weakest in the series, but there's things in 4 that only happen because of 2. Like 2 set the template for what the series would be. And by the way, I would be hard pressed not to watch a 5, if they ever made one. Like it's been talked about, with Gibson at the helm. And it
just comes with a lot of baggage.
Of course, it's really hard. But that's the thing. I mean, look, we won't get into it, but every day I think about the complexities of my relationship to the man at the center of this movie,
especially considering its themes. But why don't we go back in time? Take us back, probably to Duxbury, Massachusetts, potentially to a story involving your dad and the video store. Give the people what they want, tell us where it begins with Lethal Weapon 2 and your relationship.
This doesn't go back to the video store. This goes back to my cousin's house in Milton, Massachusetts. He had a VHS copy of this. And I remember so clearly, it was a black box. and it had a green ring around the top, and it had like a 4-paragraph description of this movie. And I remember kind of like picking it up and being like, what? I'd never seen them. And I was like, what is this? And my cousin Joe was like, you can just take that. And I took it home and I put it in, and I was like,
how old were you at this time? Roughly?
9 or 10.
Okay.
And my dad was like, well, if you like that, you have to watch the original.
Oh, so you saw this first?
I saw this first. I actually think this is a much easier, I would not say more sanitized, but like doesn't have the suicide scene.
It's more accessible.
It's way more accessible. It's way more mainstream. I think Donner's preternatural gifts for mainstream entertainment comes through in this movie. Obviously, he has the gift to make the first film. I mean, Donner dudes rise up. This I saw this one first, and then I went back, and my dad saw these are my dad and I's movies. Like this and Bond. Like this and Sean Connery era James Bond, specifically because my dad had no tolerance for Roger Moore. But that was just his thing. Sorry, I know it's a resulting thing to say.
Am I going to have to start singing Rule Britannia?
No. Here's the interesting. The reason my dad was into James Bond was because JFK. This is so Irish Catholic. JFK famously said, "Ian Fleming is my favorite writer," and that like lit up. So anyway, long story short, we saw Lethal Weapon 3 opening night. We saw Lethal Weapon 4 like the first weekend. This movie, too, is like a staple. I never rented it because I owned it. Because I had this copy that my cousin had. And I probably have seen this movie 45 times because it was always on. It's a comfort blanket movie for me. And there's actually some really cozy vibes in this movie. This movie has like a 15-minute cozy vibe.
It's part of the magic of the whole series.
Totally. Is the Murtaugh house.
And we'll get into that when we get into the premise section. So I don't want to fire too soon on that. So it's basically been baked into your DNA pretty early.
And about a year ago, I don't there's no 4K of this movie, which is ludicrous, but I think it's coming.
Okay.
And that like maybe last August, Apple TV did one of those like $5 action movie sales where you could buy a lot of action movies. And this was one of the ones that I purchased, and I've probably watched it 3 times since I bought it, including to prep for this.
It's eminently rewatchable and kind of timeless.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
It looks good. It sounds good. It cooks. It has the greatest pairing, one of the greatest pairings of chemistry in movie history, these two guys. What about you?
It's a great hang. I mean, I think I've mentioned before that I saw Lethal Weapon 3 first. And I had that one. I rented that. That was a very popular film. It was like very, very, it was like...
Well, they were in their bag at this point.
And it was like, it dominated culture, when that movie came out. So I remember renting that, loving it, buying the video of that one. So that's sort of become my de facto favorite.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying it's the quote unquote best because one, that's arbitrary, and you can make cases for all of them. In some ways, sometimes I've made the case, I actually think, they get better as they go along because they add people to the mix.
Yeah, I mean, there's
each one. Pesci comes in this one. In the third one, it's Rene Russo. In the fourth one, it's Chris Rock.
Yeah,
and the family gets bigger, and I love that aspect to it too. But so I sort of discovered them in a bit of a higgledy-piggledy order, starting with 3. That's the one that's more baked into my DNA, and then going backwards and discovering.
Can I offer
a
thought? I think 3 might be the most Philly special because it's really around corrupt cops and the armor-piercing rounds, and it has like a harder edge, right? Like it feels like there's something really dark about 3, but it's also like, there's the scene at the hockey rink, but like 3 is probably the closest to like a hard-edged cop movie. The first one has that a little bit, but as we've talked about, each one of these movies sort of has their pet theme. Yeah. So the first one is Vietnam. The second one is obviously apartheid in South Africa. It was one of my favorite things about this franchise. The third is, gang violence, which is very touching in that movie. And then the fourth is obviously, human trafficking.
Yeah.
And that's one of my something I love about these movies. And I just have to say, as we're talking about it, I think this is my favorite franchise of all time. I just don't, I've never watched the show or anything like that. I kind of couldn't
neither.
cross that bridge. But
no interest.
I will say though, if there was ever a franchise that like porting to a television show made sense, it is this one. And I have a lot of theories and feelings as to why.
Yeah.
But
I can't diss it because I haven't seen it, so I don't know whether it just
good
didn't.
casting. It's just, but I mean, I think
Damon Wayans being in it, I love
Yeah.
I love the sort of meta aspect of that with the Shane Black Last Boy Scout connection.
Yeah, that is a good point.
You know.
But there's just only, I mean, for better or for worse, there's only one Mel Gibson, you know, and there's only one, you know, guy who can really play Martin Riggs.
Synchronicity of actor and character, but we'll get into that because there's so much.
I have a hot take about it.
We have so much to cover.
Yes.
So let's just get some fast facts locked and loaded.
Hey, what do you got over this? Fast facts?
So this movie was directed by Richard Donner. The screenplay was by Jeffrey Boehm, based on a story by Shane Black and Warren Murphy, and characters created by Shane Black, of course. It was produced by Donner and Joel Silver, and it stars Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Joe Pesci, Joss Ackland, Derek O'Connor, and Patsy Kensit. Distributed by Warner Brothers on July 7th, 1989. Big summer release. Budget $30 million. Box office $227.9 million.
Holy
Drop
shit.
the mic.
Also a monster home video movie. I mean, like,
and TV forever.
I mean, it's like a TBS. I would never watch this movie on TV because you're going to lose the best stuff about it.
Right.
But it's amazing.
So while those things are taken care of, shall we talk about 48 chromosomes?
48 chromosomes. Where's that from? South Africa?
So we've got Joel Silver being back in the house producing, of course. A lot who, of course, did 48 Hours. We've got all the usual buddy cop stylings, present and correct, centering around the mismatched interracial partnership at the film's core. And indeed, the subject of race and racism is much more prominent here than in the first Lethal Weapon, as it was, of course, in 48 Hours.
Right.
The angry, irritated police captain returns in the form of the character of Murphy. And as always, there's the plethora of car chases, profanity, shootouts, urban West Coast setting. So it's pretty obvious. We don't need to spend too much time like tracing the lineage back to 48 Hours. It's right there.
No, but I would say, and I think I've maintained this before, maybe I haven't, is that like 48 Hours walked so Lethal Weapon could run. I just think that I think 48 Hours rules, but like this found a mainstream formula that, like, it doesn't surprise me that another 48 Hours comes out after this because they were like, fuck, these guys like really doubled down and found something special about this.
And it takes it to, they're so interesting, the movies, because especially the first two, because they 48 Hours is a fairly sort of contained, classic traditional policier thriller.
Western too, yeah.
Urban Western, but relatively like cops and criminals in one place, pretty simple. Lethal Weapon is much more ambitious as a series.
Well said.
There's an international scope to it.
Yeah.
They're dealing with international issues, especially in 1, 2, and 3. And the scale of the conflict is much larger. And the set pieces and the sheer scale of the films are much bigger than the ambitions of the 48 Hours movies.
It does. And I also think that I think that it really gets into the psyche of its main character and sort of the thing I love about these movies, we can get into it later, so I won't go deep here, is that these movies are all about the redemption of Martin Riggs. Like, I've always felt that from Lethal Weapon 1 to 4, the movies begin with him being a great killer and it ends with him becoming a creator of life. And I think that is like a crucial aspect to what makes these movies special. And this one is the one that sort of has the most conflict for Riggs as a character in it, from my point of view. And so that's why it's the pinnacle of the series, because I actually think these movies are a character study Martin Riggs in a very, very deep way.
Yeah, well said. I think we should just briefly touch on a bit of the Die Hard DNA because, again, we've got Joel Silver. The
Die Hard DNA.
We've got Joel Silver producing again.
Yeah.
Michael Kamen score and appearances by Mary Ellen Trainor and Grandel Bush.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to tick that
Bush
off.
Whackers rise up.
All right, we'll get into all of this in much more detail after this quick break.
Okay, we're back. Okay.
All right.
Don't you have plates?
Let's break this down in Anatomy of an Action Movie where we explore the tenets.
We live in a lethal weapon world.
And there are no friends at dusk.
They fuck you at the drive-thru. You know? Okay.
All right. So the first tenet is the premise. As this is so special to you,
okay,
would you like to take a shot at explaining the premise of this film?
I'm going to take a shot at it, but I want the consummate storyteller and great distiller of action cinema to weigh in.
I'll back you up.
Okay,
I'll be your, I got
Should we
your
go
back.
on 3 or after 3? Like 1, 2, 3? Okay. So at the end of a high-speed chase through Los Angeles, detectives Riggs and Murtaugh discover a large cache of Krugerrands, which lead them to sort of kind of be curious about why there are Krugerrands in the back of this car. At the same time, they are assigned to protect a witness named Leo Getz, who has laundered $500 million of drug money. And in a coincidence, it turns out that Leo Getz has actually laundered the money of a corrupt South African diplomat who owns these Krugerrands, who becomes aware of Murtaugh as the sort of head honcho and threatens his family, leading to a violent showdown between Riggs, Murtaugh, and the South African
Great job, buddy.
of diplomats. Thank you. Yeah. That's it's not more complicated than that.
Yeah, that's a great summation. It's essentially about them taking on these South African villains who are hiding behind
diplomatic immunity.
I throw them up, you slam them.
Oh man, I could you could turn the track. I should do like a screening of This American Cinematheque where I just do all the dialogue. There's no bloody pool here, mate.
So I have a question for you. That I've held back from the beginning, which is I wonder if. We talked in the episode that just came out today as we record in 3,000 Miles to Graceland, you made this reference to the line in Pulp Fiction, you're either an Elvis guy or a Beatles guy. And my question is, I wonder are you a Lethal Weapon guy or a Die Hard guy? Because I'm a Die Hard guy, you're a Lethal Weapon guy. And I'm wondering what I think you are generally one or the other. It's not to say I love the Lethal Weapon, love the not just love the Lethal Weapon movies. But if pressed, my favorite franchise, even though it's much more erratic, is the Die Hard series. So I just wonder why is that? So, can we split the atom on that?
I actually had sort of a profound thought about this the other day because. And I can only speak for myself. I am, as much as I love Die Hard, and I love Die Hard, but the other thing that my dad raised me on besides Lethal Weapon movies and action cinema was the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges were like a huge part of growing up. Every time they were on TV, Sunday mornings, he would throw them on. There's a particular sketch that my father thought was hilarious, which is this called Niagara Falls. And it's a very famous Three Stooges sketch. It's, Niagara Falls. And it's this whole thing. And I remember once he used to reference it. And back in the age of just regular television, you couldn't just watch it whenever you wanted. And I remember once turning on the TV and upstairs in my parents' room and that sketch being on. And I tore down the stairs. And I was like, Dad, the Niagara Falls sketch is on. And he dropped the plate and he was like, Jesus. And he ran for the TV and he turned it on. So and this movie, this one in particular begins with that this Looney Tunes chaotic energy. And so I think that on some level for me, it's this movie is the perfect fusion of being raised on slapstick silliness, which this movie is for basically until the toilet scene. This is an extremely goofy movie. And then after that toilet scene, which is like the best scene in the movie, I think by a country mile, the movie gets very serious, which is one of its one of the amazing tonal shifts about this movie. But I think I was raised with the Lethal Weapon at the center for the slapstick of the second film, and to some extent the third film maybe a little less, though it's there, and the fourth film is like basically a comedy, right? And then I think the other thing is that just the repartee of the two characters is a big deal. And I think the other big thing is that I grew up in a house with like socially minded Democrats, so like issues of race and politics and these kinds of things were really pivotal to my parents, and they talked about them all the time, and kind of being like socially aware. And we had cousins who were of, let's say, of a different political persuasion. And I remember my cousin saying, like, never talk social responsibility to a Billingham. Like, it just was a big part of how we were raised. So like action, slapstick, and then also like the social, despite being, cop movies, all of these movies have this like really strong idea at its core about being human and being humanitarian and like not being, this is an anti-racist movie, right? So, and like, so it's like, it's a huge, which isn't to say that like Die Hard doesn't have elements of that kind of thinking and the sort of satire about the cops, but these are much softer movies, I would say, than the Die Hard movies. Like Riggs, despite being kind of a loon, is like a character that you like fall in love with, and you love McClane too, but McClane's a little harder edged in my mind. He's a little more like of a sarcastic East Coast asshole, where Riggs doesn't really have that. Riggs is sarcastic and wise ass, but like he's kind of like softer, and he becomes a softer character, and he becomes adopted. It's really beautiful. He's essentially adopted by a black family in this movie. Like just the little touches of him being like, where does Trish keep my laundry? Like Trish does his laundry.
I know.
And like he's cooking chili in the house for them. And like he comes over to watch the commercial, like one of the great domestic scenes in all of movies.
It's true. It's what's interesting as well about, the first Die Hard movie, of course, is at its emotional core is the reconciliation between John and Holly. And the family, but we don't really meet the family. And then the second one is sort of about that too. But as the series goes on, McClane is increasingly
super cop.
Isolated. Yeah, and he becomes a super cop. Both of the later films involve his daughter and then his son. But the family is fragmented, and it's more about it's McClane as the super cop. Whereas these films, what I love about it is like in real life, as you get older and you get married, and maybe your siblings get married, the family gets additions. Yeah. And if they integrate into the family, it's a beautiful thing. And this series captures that in a lovely way.
I'm reminded of it's been a long time since I've watched it, but the scene towards the end of 4 when Joe Pesci talks about the
don't.
Yeah, what is it? It's a pet?
About Froggy.
Yeah, Froggy. And
it's one of the greatest speeches of all time.
Yeah, and he's like,
it's truly profound.
And like, I think that like it's the love. I grew up with like a fragmented household, to say the least, but I think that these movies were like very, I don't know, like it's kind of like the Cosby Show. It's simplistic, but when you're a 10-year-old boy and you see like a functional, the way that often African-American families are portrayed in the media is so retrograde, especially in this era. So like this was kind of like the Cosby Show plus action scenes, to be like kind of glib and reductive about it. Like you really got this insight into upper middle class black life in cinema that like kind of can disarm any prejudice that I wasn't raised with outright prejudice. I didn't grow up with my parents were not racist any more than their kind of cultural upbringing, dictated. But like my parents worked really hard to sort of escape that Boston milieu that you can fall into. And so to watch a black family be functional and like adopt was like just kind of part of it, right? And so that I think that is what makes me this movie trains you to hate racists.
Yeah.
And we need more of that, especially hating South African racists,
Well, it's also like we're looking at a scene now on the TV where they're confronting Joss Ackland's character and his henchmen, Mel and Danny Glover confronting them. It's amazing.
On Gibson's face.
But this is, It's about confronting evil.
Right. The most basic kind of
fucking calling it out.
Right, exactly.
And saying, no, this is wrong. You are evil, and not equivocating about fucking racism.
Yeah.
Calling it what it is, no matter what you cloak it in.
Right.
No matter what, bullshit arguments. And it's like, this is 1989, guys.
Yeah, it was
what
weirdly
the hell are we doing here?
Progressive. No,
it just
totally.
feels so crazy that this film from 1989, which is so progressive, now, where you look at anything, and the stuff I see on social media of the slow and steady normalization of a reintroduction of like a stealth prejudice in various forms, and it's like this, it's so frustrating and sad, but at the same time it's sort of like, look, this is, there's a lot, these films are important. They're really important for a myriad of reasons.
And I think like Richard Donner deserves a fair amount of credit for always keeping social issues at the fore. And I think he understood something that has died out, which is like, people didn't just want, kiss, kiss, bang, bang, right? They wanted something a little more substantive.
Nourishment.
Yeah. And we were still in the era of the sitcom. In some ways, this feels like a sitcom. There's like the condom the condom commercial is like sitcom heaven, right? Like just the way that. And like Glover, I bring him up in this moment. I think he's a revelation in all these movies, but he's partially a revelation because he's almost Jackie Gleason. He's almost like, don't eat the tuna. Like he has this kind of like, he's always playing catch up. But what's so beautiful we can get into all that as we get into the characters, but just the fact that there's like a scene in the movie that we're seeing right now where they talk about the triangle trade and how it works. And like, this movie taught me what that was, right? So it's didactic in the sense that it calls out racism and makes it part of like a dynamic killer action movie. And the fact that I think is, for me, what makes this the pinnacle of the genre, is that like these movies can be about things. They really can. And Lethal Weapon did it better than I think any other franchise ever did. I think
I would even say it does it better than Die Hard, in the sense that Die Hard wasn't really issue driven. The issues, in quotes, in Die Hard 2, a movie I absolutely love, are very muddled. It's like the mercenaries are trying to protect a communist, a sort of anti-communist general who's also a drug dealer. It's unclear like what the villain's agenda. Here it's very, very clear.
Right.
Like it's South African white supremacists
hiding under the guise of diplomatic immunity, right? Yeah.
So, and then the issues of gang violence in the third one, and then the Chinese immigration stuff.
The police shootings and all this stuff.
There's like he shoots one of his son's friends.
Yeah, and one of the things the movie, we'll get there when we get to it, but it reflects on is like, was that the right decision to make, right? And the one thing
quite challenging stuff.
And that was a hugely popular mainstream movie. I think one thing that I will say, not in defense of Die Hard, but just sort of to say, is that like those movies are all pressure cookers, right? So like they don't have the time or they have to cook. Now this movie obviously moves like lightning, but like it has more of a bandwidth. And I would say that like if there's something that is political about most of the Die Hard movies, is that like the ideology of a lot of these people is bullshit, and actually all they want is money. Like the Grubers being the prime example of this. Like Peter Gruber is a East German whatever, but really he's like wants to steal all the gold in Fort Knox, right? So it's like there is a way that, and similarly on the other side of it, those movies are very critical of like stupid authority brash figures being like, this is how we're gonna solve all our problems. So like it's there, but it's like they're not saying apartheid is bad in those movies.
It's interesting. I feel like we've been backed into, I think something, I don't want to get too political, but this is a heavily political film. And I think something that goes on with one of the right's weapons and it's sort of a thought control and a mind control and a suppressive thing, is this idea of like, stay in your lane. Don't talk politics. Every time there's a school shooting, a teacher or a doctor comes out and says something in the press, and it's stay in your lane. Well, it's right. Yeah. Don't talk politics. Right.
Well, it's like Kaepernick kneeling at football games. It's the same thing.
Yeah, don't politicize.
Like being a black man is not. It's
to suppress the idea of speaking up about these things. Now, the reason I say that is because I think it's so commendable for Richard Donner, who is an absolute progressive hero in my mind, to make a mainstream action movie that shines a light on this issue of apartheid. And he was not afraid to say, like, because people could say studios are always like any capitalist entity is going to say, well, it's like Michael Jordan said, Republicans buy sneakers too, so I'm not going to criticize anything, right?
Right.
Like, Republicans are going to enjoy action movies as much as Democrats, so don't jam it with Democrat-like leaning progressive themes or whatnot. And Donner was like, fuck that. I'm going to put all of this is what I believe. This is what's right. It's not about right or left. It's about like moral authority. And we have to, as a society, call this stuff out and educate people about what's going on, because it's just flat out wrong.
I also think it's fair to say that in the late 80s, Republicans were not the party they are now.
Of course,
and so, like, I think we all kind of agreed that racism was shit. And we can maybe get into, we'll get into the villain section, but like, this is one of the greatest examples of one-dimensional villains feeling fully dimensionalized by great actors.
Absolutely, and as we sort of said, that we'll get into it. But they're like, actually, weirdly, even though they're so disgusting and despicable on screen, they're fun to spend time with.
Yeah,
somehow it's like paradoxical.
Derek O'Connor he's
amazing. We got to get into it. We'll save it.
They fucked you in the drive-thru.
Do you have anything else to say? Sort of big picture about the themes, ideas of the film before we move into the hero section?
I think let's move into the hero section, because I think a lot of the big themes and ideas beyond the sort of like socio-political messaging are around what I like to call the like redemption of Martin Riggs. And this one, well, let's get into it. Let's just jump right in.
Well, Mel Gibson as Martin Riggs, Danny Glover as Roger Murtaugh. How have they evolved? Sort of my macro question is, how have they evolved both individually and as partners in your mind as an expert on the series by the second installment? Well, through the second installment.
Let me say that what I love about this way this movie begins is that it begins with Riggs being like, woo! I love this job! And Murtaugh being like, my fucking wife's car. So like instantly, like, we know who they are. And we know that they're like,
and where he's at on his journey,
and that they're in love with each other, right? And the movie kind of begins. Let's start with Riggs. Like, he seems pretty good. He seems like he's kind of got it together, right? He's not like putting a bullet in the gun and sticking the gun in his mouth and attempt to pull the trigger. In fact, like, there's this absolutely incredible scene. Honestly, like, and I'm just going to say it out the gate. I think Mel Gibson's performance in these movies is the greatest action hero performance of all time. I think that's my opinion. I think there are plenty of action films I've never seen, but if we're talking like mainstream 80s and 90s, the shading of this character and just the is amazing. And I think this film is the peak of it. As good as he is in the first movie, he brings back Martin Riggs 1.0 in certain scenes of this movie towards the end.
It's the scene where he's silent in the car and Roger is saying certain things to him about like the tactics they're going to employ or they're discussing like, the playbook. And Riggs has just like got this lethal look in his eye. It's like Gibson is incredible.
Yeah, well,
it's really powerful as a movie star to be silent.
Yeah,
and you totally understand what a character is thinking, and he's so alive as an actor.
He is, and there's this scene early in the movie where he's sitting with Darlene Love, who's absolutely amazing in this movie, and she's like, she finds the gold pen.
Oh, the gold pen.
And she asks him about the gold pen. And he goes, and he's making the chili, and he's eating the carrots, and he just like gives this monologue. And I'm like, there's no better film acting than this. There's no better, like, guy just telling a story. It feels like it's improvised. It is obviously not, right? It's scripted. But it comes out in this way that is just like the way that you would tell the story of something tragic that happened to you when you're kind of getting over it, when you're kind of like not living in the
distance.
You're not living in the grief every day. And it ends with this like beautiful moment where Glover comes in and he's like, gold pen, Trish found a gold pen in the laundry. And they just look at each other. And it's this thing that happens when you're like, as you get older and you're close to people in your life and you like, you're close to everyone, but you have these little moments that you share only with people like individually. And it's like, it is like, it's really powerful. And he's like in a great place. And then he has to become the lethal weapon again because the people he loves are threatened. And he falls in love with this woman, and like he has to. And what's really key, I'm jumping a little all over the place, what's really key to that scene when he's making the chili and as he says, I guess if Vicky hadn't been driving that night, we would be all right. So it's very clear he blames himself. If he hadn't been up to his eyeballs in work, he would have made it. And then there's this thing that happens late in the movie that's controversial, that people criticize, which is it turns out that Peter, the Derek O'Connor, is responsible for Vicky's death. And what that does is brilliant for me, in my mind, is that it, you could argue this, but it takes the responsibility off of Riggs. But then it turns it into a revenge movie. And not only is he getting revenge for what's happened to the Murtaugh family, not only is he getting revenge for what happens to Patsy Kinson, Rika, but he's also getting revenge for Vicky. And that is what allows him in the third film to start a relationship with Rene Russo. Closure. And this movie ends with a closure. But in order for the closure to happen, he has to become the guy from part one who's like, I do it real good, right? Back in Laos, I took a guy from, like, he has to go back to this awful place again. He has to be, the movie's called Lethal Weapon, right? He has to do that again.
Yeah, it's not called chilling on the couch with the Murtaughs.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right.
That's so important.
It's so right. And like, there's a scene when he goes with the dog with Sam when they're watching Three Stooges together. And I just think that like the third and fourth movies he kind of has to be in Lethal Weapon. The shades of that person all come back, right? But again, this first movie, the first thing we see Riggs do in the first Lethal Weapon movie is kill 3 drug dealers who he didn't have to kill. By the way, those guys don't have to die, and almost blow his own brains out. This guy's entire life is like murder. And by the end of the fourth movie, he's in a hospital room with his wife having a baby. Like, that's the arc of these movies.
That's why I feel they should just leave it where.
And I think that's fair.
I love the final note of this whole symphony. And I love that it ends on like a shot of the whole family, basically.
And why can't we be friends? Right? It's great.
I'm gonna go.
I know.
I'm gonna go.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
But
it's like that. That is what I find so moving about these movies is that like it's about Riggs forgiving himself, right? For something that like, but it's also no one ever says that. And Riggs never goes like, I forgive myself, right? He just kind of like changes or grows or develops. And so the third film, he certainly doesn't take a back seat, but there is this great storyline where he's like, okay, Murtaugh kills Nick's friend. Like that's kind of what the third movie is about, right? And then the fourth film is kind of about the Murtaughs too, because they take in this family that's been, these movies kick ass. So yeah, I find that like what I love about this movie is the way that it does all of these things while still just being like a 2 hour and 3 minute, absolute hilariously funny, ball busting action film.
Well, beautifully said, and it is an incredible journey for some of Gibson's work in this film is utterly spectacular.
He is like, look, just the way he looks. Like we have it on in the background. Well, the toilet scene, the way he looks at the bomb squad guy.
He's like, I'm not leaving
the room. Yeah. He's been on the toilet for 12 hours. Him. Yeah. And it's just these movies are just like the juice for me. It's like we used to have it. We used to have this like and it's really special. And I really think to me the great character arc of action movies, mainstream action movies, is Mel Gibson as Martin Riggs. And, interestingly, he's going to play the bitter pill version of this in a really effective cop thriller.
Yeah, that I can't wait to discuss.
20, 30 years later, a movie that I really struggle with because I was like, oh, Mel Gibson playing a cop again. And I'm like, oh, this guy's a
We're talking about Dragged Across Concrete, which we will get to, which is a fascinating sort of subversion of all of this stuff. Very provocative.
Well, to think of it as like the Matrix, it's like the red pill to this movie's blue pill or something
in some
like
ways,
this. Yeah. That's going to be a dense episode.
Complicated one. But let's talk about Danny Glover as Roger Murtaugh and where he's at, how he has changed, how he has evolved. What's interesting to me, just to maybe set the stage for that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. I talked a lot.
Well, to sort of, the first one, to I think to its credit, and it was largely lauded and praised for this, was the fact that it never commented on race. It was just completely like normal and accepted as it should be. As opposed to these two guys were partners. Race was never a factor. As opposed to 48 Hours, where race is very much a factor, and for the Nick Nolte character, an impediment and an obstacle. Right. He's also it's a cop and a criminal. It's a somewhat of a different dynamic, but it was not an issue whatsoever. And why should it be? In this film, I'm not the right person to speak about this, obviously, but I've heard this, often the aspiration is post-racial society where race is no longer an issue. But I've also heard an expression that was interesting that was like, well, if you don't, when people say like, I think people often find it irritating if people say, especially white people say, well, I don't see race.
Yeah.
And I heard this quote, and it was from I think it was the Patriots head coach last year. I think he said it, who was African American. He basically said, well, if you don't see race, then you don't see racism.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the sort of maybe the crispest way to put it. So what this film, explores now, as opposed to the first movie, is the fact that Roger is confronted with true racist evil at its most extreme form of South African, apartheid.
It's very relevant at the time too. Like, this movie is not like doing this 20 years later. It's not doing the we're commenting on something that happened 50 years ago. It's like up to this is how I learned about apartheid.
Exactly. That's why these films are important, because they're shining a light on it and they're sort of educating people about it. Of course, this film isn't explicitly, we don't necessarily see the full extent of what's going on in South Africa, but the fact that it chooses to use these particular villains to embody a larger societal evil and injustice is important. And it's just important that Roger has to deal with it with Riggs backing him up.
Do you know much about the development of the screenplay for this? I'm just curious.
I know a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be curious, because this doesn't come out long after the first one. It's like 2 years?
Yeah. So what I did research about it, and I don't have this is pulled from memory. So forgive me if this is not 100% factually accurate. So this is more anecdotal. I could stand to be corrected, but basically, Shane Black, after the success of the first film, Joel Silver and him and Joel very tight, asked him to write the sequel. It was called Play Dirty. Was the title. And I believe it was him and the co-story, who's credited with co-story, which would make sense, Warren Murphy, his friend. And it was a much darker version, as tends to be the case with most of Black's scripts. The original Lethal Weapon was much darker. The original Last Boy Scout has Milo doing snuff films and chainsawing women. It's like insane.
I've never read that script.
I've read
but
it.
I've heard it.
Bloody hell, is it hardcore?
It's cool that
Black's got issues. So we love the guy, but man, you'd think. I mean, his movies don't pull any punches, but they're even the scripts are even more like rough,
and they're written they're really dense and detailed too, right? Anyway,
he's actually incredibly economical with his, right? He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable on the page.
Shane Black's a genius.
On the page, they're amazing. Anyway, so they wrote this script, and famously, Riggs dies at the end.
Yeah.
And of course, they were like, this script was rejected by the studio, and Shane felt so bad that he offered to give them, he was considering giving the money back. Of course, his agent talked him out of that.
Yeah. The agents are valuable sometimes.
But that shows, that says
what a nice
lot.
guy.
Well, it says a lot about his dedication and his commitment, probably, and his loyalty to Joel Silver, who kind of gave him this start, and they've had a friendship for, 20, 30 years.
They did shoot the ending where Riggs dies, as I understand.
Is that right?
I've heard that they shot it and they tested it.
You can see a version of it where it could work, but I think with the vibes of this film being so, you've talked about the cozy vibes of it, the family aspect, it would just be the wrong choice for this film. Even if the series did end here, it's too much of a downer.
Yeah.
And it isn't to say that there are films where, I won't cite examples for spoilers, but there are films where the hero can die and it feels totally correct. It isn't necessarily a downer. It's some kind of moral victory or whatnot. But in this instance, I just think it was the wrong choice. So
it would rob the audience of the a potential emotion that the movie, I think, tries to get at, which is like, this guy can change. Right? Like killing him is not the emotionally correct ending to the series.
And also, it's this is about friendship and family, and if Roger loses like his new best friend, and it's just the wrong choice in my
Can
view.
I ask you kind of a dumb question, but I'm just curious. How long after the first one do you think this takes place? I feel like it's like a year.
Yeah, if he feels different enough. Yeah. Right, because especially as you said that Riggs is beginning the movie like he does mention a couple of times in the first movie, as I recall, that he does love his job, and in fact that it's the job that stops him from killing himself. But the fact that this one is like he's so high on the adrenaline buzz again of the job. He's clearly in a much better place.
It's not tinged with suicide. Exactly.
Right. It doesn't seem quite as manic.
No, you're right.
It is manic, but it's not like a toxic mania. It's like he's just kind of like got a lust for life again.
Can I, because we're the purpose of this section is technically Murtaugh, point out something that I think is really brilliant about this one. Because this movie is made up of brilliant moments, but there's one really brilliant thing that happens in this movie, and it's in the great gathered around the TV scene. And by the way, I love how their construction guy just comes in and watches the commercial. It just feels like a family. It's just like
right.
But in that scene, it's the ultimate dad moment. It's like the dad vibes are incredible. And the reason they're incredible is two things happen. One, everyone is constantly like, Dad, stop eating the tuna.
Oh, yeah.
But then there's this moment where Raj looks over at Grianne. He's like, who's that guy? And the guy is, this is George. Dad, I talked to him about your rec room. And he goes, George, did you get the sense that I liked you? And Darlene Love and Tracy Wolf, I'm getting choked up. Both kind of laugh. They kind of, and like, there's this like, reverence that they have for him as like this like gentle ribbing soul, but also the like, ugh, Dad, stop eating the tuna. And like both, that's what's kind of beautiful about being a dad, is that like you can be the biggest goofball and like kind of whatever, but also like they clearly love the guy, and it's like that's what family is about, is like, and it's progressive because it's not patriarchal, right? He's not like, I rule the roost, but it is kind of like, just as like, did you? Murtaugh,
it's real, isn't it?
Murtaugh
it feels very real.
And Murtaugh doesn't get those wins because he's paired with the most charismatic motherfucker alive in these movies. So that moment that Murtaugh has when it's kind of like he gets to be funny, he gets to be kind of the like, he's constantly put upon. He's put upon at the precinct. He's always answering for Riggs's bullshit. They put the condoms on the table. Like, but in that moment, he kind of has this like, he's the funny one. And I just love that for him in these movies.
The moment that I love, and I'm in a bit of an emotional, it does bring up things, this movie. The moment that's so charming and such a genius choice is when they all rib him at the station with the condoms on the tree, and he's really embarrassed about it, and he knows they're going to give him shit, but then at the last moment he laughs too.
Yeah.
And it's such a brilliant moment.
Yeah.
Because he's capable of laughing at himself.
Right.
He's capable of stepping outside the protective father visceral instinct of the embarrassment,
Yeah.
and realizing that it is a journey, that Rihanna is getting older. He has to let go a bit. She, and that's part of why these films are like low-key profound.
Totally.
Not just in their examination of wider international social issues, but in tracking the journey of family and parenthood.
Well, and there's also a little bit, two things that come to mind when you bring that up is one, that these movies are also half family dramas and half workplace situation. And this one in particular, because they have like Grandel Bush and the guy whose name escapes me, but is later on Breaking Bad.
Dean Norris.
Yeah, Dean Norris and Jeanette Goldstein.
Yeah.
Like, who kind of like, Murtaugh's a different guy at the office than he is at home. And there's that great moment in the first movie. God, these movies kick ass. When he's like kind of doing shtick in the house and he's like, like a roast like substance. And Trish goes, Raj, you're being an asshole. And like that, these movies are about Martin Riggs, but like they always find time for Danny Glover. And we should say, Danny Glover is the greatest of all time. He's such a special, he does Look Back in Anger the same year, the Charles Burnett movie where he plays this enigmatic, terrifying, bad guy. And like, there's just something so special about him. And he's so lovable. And like, to me, like, Murtaugh is dad vibe. Like Murtaugh is kind of like that's kind of who you want as your dad, and like it would have been Bill Cosby, but that's obviously very complicated now. But Danny Glover is like, I look at Danny Glover and I think of like, and he's much more than this, of course, but I it's not surprising that Sidney Poitier is kind of his like avatar as he's talked about. But like Danny Glover is like, especially in this role, I'm like, that's what dads are supposed to be like.
Well, yeah, it's the balance of being a dad sometimes is that you kind of understand you have to be the butt of the joke
right
a lot of the time. But push comes to shove, you need to be the bear.
Yeah.
And you need to be the protector. And, that there is underneath that ribbing is hopefully, a deep respect and love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just would say that I recently watched Predator 2, and it's kind of nuts that Predator 2 is after this movie because he feels like 10 years younger in Predator 2. Like he's really diverse.
It's interesting because I think Joel, which was Predator 2 is produced by Joel Silver, of course, because he produces every great movie made between
I love
1979 and the present day.
Predator 2 rocks.
Oh, it's great.
Hopkins Hive, rise up.
But Joel Silver is saying like, you know what? Let's give Danny the action hero role.
Hell yeah, dude.
Let's let him go for it. He's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just so different from this. Like, I don't know, Danny Glover Film Festival is what I'm saying. Like,
he's an extraordinary screen actor.
Yeah,
love him to death. Let's talk about the villains. The villains of this piece. Josh Ackland as Arjen Rudd and Derek O'Connor as Pieter Vorstedt. Again, I think what's so interesting about this is that we talked about other movies. I forget which one we were citing. I think one that does spring to mind that we haven't covered it yet. I don't think you've seen it yet, but Another 48 Hours is an example of a movie that where
I've never seen it. Yeah,
the villains are so unpleasant and ugly and nihilistic and unremittingly horrible that they're not fun to hang out with, which is weird because like in the first movie of 48 Hours, James Remar and Sonny Landham are the same. They're equally despicable and vile and horrible, but they are kind of a weirdly fun hang, I think, maybe largely because the actors are so charismatic.
The movie starts with them, so you're on their journey, right? It's very different in that sense.
And they're kind of weirdly cool. They're like good looking. They're kind of stylish. Yeah. They're horrible people, but but also the movie is pretty brisk, so that you don't spend that much time with them. But when you do, it's not like beyond the pale unpleasant. There are examples of villains that don't understand the Gruber lesson, which is if you're going to spend like 20 minutes of total screen time or more with those villains, you better make them an enjoyable time to spend, like totally. Tommy Lee and Under Siege and whatnot.
Or even Gary Busey shooting up the TV in Lethal Weapon and being like, it's goddamn Christmas.
Yeah, he's like funny, entertaining and kind of fun, even though he's so horrible.
And he's so intense.
He's interesting as well. In this, these villains are so despicable, yet somehow, again, possibly because of the actors, and I think largely just because the South African accent is fun.
It is fun.
And kind of colorful.
Riggs? You
know?
Martin Riggs? Yeah, the Chicago Riggses.
They're interesting and entertaining to spend time with.
They are. They're like they're kind of like Bond villains.
Yes.
You know, like they have an evil scheme, but they're definitely like Joel Silverfied. So it's like about drugs. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
and they're all the blonde angel of death thing that Joel Silver does with Gary Busey and with Alexander Goodenough in Die Hard.
Is this the closest corollary to Hans? And because like there is a little bit of ideology hiding, just wanting to steal a shitload of money in this movie, right? It's not as like made explicit, and like Joss Ackland is wonderful in this movie, but he's not Hans Gruber. He doesn't have the like John Phillips. Like he's
got no redeeming qualities.
Yeah, he's actually a fucking creep too.
He's a creep to Patsy Kensit. And there's one speech where his ideology his twisted ideology comes out because he's talking about black people in the force and how they have guns and badges and they hate us. Yeah. And that whole bit.
Wow, that's a good South African accent.
So, he's trying to twist her to be like, oh, they're prejudiced against us and they're railroading us unfairly. And he's a total monster. Yet because Ackland and Derek O'Connor are such fantastic actors.
Yeah.
It's like they're kind of great to spend time with.
O'Connor kind of steals the movie.
He's awesome.
Him and Pesci, obviously.
So I really want to talk, Joss Ackland, great, one of the greats, we've talked about him in Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, they're Die Hard on a Blank All-Stars. They're two great C movies.
A great villain.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about Derek O'Connor.
Yes, me too. Is he Irish?
He's Irish. I think was born in Dublin. I want to say, I could be wrong. But as I recall, he was born in Ireland, as I recall, and has had a fantastic career. The movie that I remember him from is a little known movie. I want to give people a recommendation. It's called Hope and Glory.
I love Hope and Glory.
That movie?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
John Borman, 1987, a kind of brilliant, what's the sort of phrase of, you know how a lot of World War II movies are very earnest?
Yeah.
And this is like the opposite because it's like the real experience of World War II, mainly around a young boy and his family.
Yes.
So to the point where the kids around the neighborhood kind of think it's cool, right? They're like, oh, let's go and play with the shrapnel in the bombed out houses and stuff. It's like, it's so heavy. Brilliant because it's so subversive. Yeah. And it doesn't treat it as this terrible weight. And it's all really earnest and we have to stop the Nazis and everything. It's sort of like, this was the real human experience and it's based on, true, I think it might be John Borman's somewhat semi-autobiographical about him, but it's definitely has the ring of truth to it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, we have to mention him, Paul Verhoeven, and how he talked a lot about how as a child, you don't think of war in quite the same way because your mentality is not calibrated for that.
You don't understand it.
So anyway, Derek O'Connor has this role in it as I think he ends up basically having an affair with the boy's mom while the dad is away. And he's kind of like his dad's best mate. He's not a great guy.
Yeah.
But remember, he's like a memorable actor. He also popped up in Deep Rising as the captain.
Not much of a part there, but he's good in it.
He's absolutely fantastic in this.
He is... we've talked about this on the main feed with Face Off, the mirroring, but he's the great mirror of Riggs in this movie, right? Like, he's Riggs if devoid of any moral... there's that great speech where he's like, she didn't die right away. It took a bit of time. And it's
horrible.
And like, that's that great moment where Riggs loses his fucking shit, And luckily we have Chekhov's straitjacket.
They could have just shot him and pushed him off the boat.
It wouldn't be fun. But I actually think they want to make him suffer, and they want him to see her. Fucking monsters. He's incredible. I'm a big fan of, in this era, I'm sure we've talked about this before, how the secondary, the main henchman slides in as the main villain at a certain point of the movie. Like, really suddenly, like, that becomes the primary antagonist. Like, not really in Die Hard, but Carl is the physical antagonist of that movie. And of course, comes back at the end and like the horror show kind of ending, and that kind of happens here with Ackland. Anyways, I think Derek O'Connor is an extraordinary actor, and one of the things that makes him he's actually funny in this movie a little bit. He has like a couple kind of just making sure I wasn't standing on plastic, like that kind of. You're much better at it than me. But like he has that kind of like he's funny. He's disarming. Like, there's that great moment when who's that actor who's also in Aliens, like Jeanette Goldstein?
Mark Ralston.
Mark Ralston comes and he's like, "I'm sorry, Mr." And like he shoots him. Why am I sounding like a Beatle now? But like he's just disarming and he's weirdly charming, but he's a fucking sadist piece of shit. But I think that again, one-dimensional South African racists, he manages to find like, let's put it this way: you love to hate him.
And there's little choices as well where before he does the horrible final monologue and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I was going to see if you wanted to drink." There's sort of like it was classic Shane Black, like
also classic Bond villain.
Shit, like let's give you a little bit a slight last kindness. It's like giving someone the last cigarette, or let's have a drink together. We'll talk.
I'm confused.
Then I'll tell
about
you
that.
the worst thing ever.
Riggs is on the wagon, but
he says that
early in the movie he's drinking beers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's so like maybe he's just like, I don't drink the hard stuff anymore,
Maybe.
but like. He's definitely like drinking a beer.
Maybe it's
when
a non-alcoholic.
I'm sure that's what it is.
It does look. They make that look good, sitting by the sunset, drinking a nice cold one.
Look around you, Sam. Look around you.
Well, should we talk about, speaking of that scene, the lady of this motion picture,
Patsy
Kensit as Rika van den Haas.
She's wonderful in this movie.
She is, isn't she? She's really luminous.
Yeah.
And youthful, kind of a discovery, I would imagine, for American audiences. Patsy Kensit,
also
important
Irish
figure. And I don't know
Okay.
I couldn't say one way or the other about that. You might want to check it.
You keep talking. I'm going to just do it.
Patsy Kensit is an important figure in British culture as for numerous reasons, been famous for a long time, an actress in her own right. She was also married, as I recall, to Jim Kerr from Simple Minds.
She's English.
And was subsequently married to
Simple Minds. Okay.
Liam Gallagher. So she was in the press and the tabloids all the time. And she was also on a show that that I actually wrote a couple of episodes for way back when. BBC show that's called Holby City, which is sort of our a Grey's Anatomy type show,
cool.
BBC medical drama, and she's been on that for she was on that for a very long time. So important figure in British culture. I think she's great in this, and I love the character. I like it's the romance is it works. It's charming. She's just got that kind of youthful innocence and honesty. You can see why he sort of falls in love with her, because she's just cool.
And the dichotomy of her hating things about her country, but also like wanting to work in the job, right? Like wanting to be in Los Angeles, wanting to get out of South Africa. Yeah, I was sort of like a little bit moved by the way she kind of like talks through it in this movie. I also would say like movies used to be a lot hotter than they are now. Like the sex is good in this movie. It's cool to see people having sex in a movie. Like I like that. I like that the movie does it, and it's part of it. And I will say that, like, her murder absolutely justifies and creates Riggs' rage that he brings to the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's effective, and I think she's good at it. Let's talk about this on the action level. I mean, wow.
It's really special that there's so many helicopters in this movie.
There's so many great ones, but why don't I just ask you what your favorite action scene or sequence is? I can list them if you like.
Yeah, do it just for the audience in case they haven't watched this one in a little bit.
There's the opening chase that ends with the spilled Krugerrands, the attack on the cops, the sort of coordinated attack on all the cops where the dive board blows up and they kill Grandel Bush when he's hanging upside down.
You were a cop,
and the Riggs, the famous assault on Riggs's beach house, which was satirized in Loaded Weapon 1 with the great Bruce Willis cameo.
Yeah.
Chekhov's nail gun.
Yeah.
Of course. And, the destruction of the house on stilts.
Dude.
Which is, for me, is the highlight.
When he's cheering.
Isn't that such a fascinating choice?
Great. Yeah.
You never see action heroes do that.
Yeah.
But it feels totally sort of authentic. It's like it's our team against their team.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a sports moment.
We're missing the chase, the chase that ends in the surfbird mortar, which is amazing.
Surf's up, pal.
Yeah, that's incredible. When Riggs opens the door and just goes like and closes it again. I'm going to go with an unconventional choice here, which is the toilet scene. think that's an action scene. But is there a better moment in action buddy movie history where Raj tries to say, I love you?
I know,
and Riggs,
right?
And Gibson with the slight tear in the eye, like the holding it together. Guys like you don't die on toilets. Like, it's just like that to me. It's like, it's a brief but it is action, right? It's like, and it allows them that. I mean, for like pure visceral action, I think the opening is incredible. I mean, this movie begins at 150 miles per hour. It's amazing. And it's so funny.
Bold opening.
And like, yeah, and it's really good. But I mean, to me, that moment's really great. And another moment that I really think is amazing in this movie is the introduction of Pesci as Leo Getz, and when Riggs dives and they fall out the window. Like, that is when you know, like, this movie is not fucking around. Like, and I think that is like sort of I mean, we already have had the opening with the multiple car chases and the helicopter and stuff like that. And God bless a movie that shoots in LA also, you know, just like how it feels like LA. But I mean, they're all incredible. I'm going to go with the toilet scene. And then my number 2 pick really kind of has to be the opening, because it's like such a templated moment of genius. It's a genius thing.
Yeah, just to start the movie in that we
media res, so to speak. Yeah.
There's one thing I just wanted to reference. So I'm just pulling up my phone because a colleague and friend of mine who has some inside knowledge of some of this stuff told me about this. The house on stilts thing is apparently a very specific. It's a Joel Silver thing, right? So Joel Silver, if you really know a lot about him, he owns 2 Frank Lloyd Wright houses. He's a big architecture buff and fan and kind of connoisseur. So architecture is very important. Now, we never talked about this on Die Hard on a Blank, but I'd done all the research that all the stuff in Nakatomi Plaza, especially like that fountain thing, the corporate stuff, it's all very Frank Lloyd Wright like influenced and stuff. So she told me about this documentary called Los Angeles Plays Itself.
Oh, I love Los Angeles Plays Itself.
So apparently the house on stilts was designed by a designer who was apparently considered somewhat gauche compared to Joel's preference for Frank Lloyd Wright.
So he tears the house down.
And yeah, so there's a quote from it that says, the film offers even more extensive commentary on architect John Lautner, whose Garcia house on Mulholland Drive gets pulled down by Mel Gibson's pickup truck in Lethal Weapon 2. The narrator dryly observes that the film's producer, Joel Silver, is a fan of modern architecture, owning not one but 2 Frank Lloyd Wright houses, and points out Hollywood's tendency to want things both ways, pandering to populist tastes instead of clinging to personal convictions. So it's just interesting that Joel Silver is at such the height of his powers that he can have an architectural in-joke in a massive action movie.
It also kind of speaks to this era of producer as auteur a little bit.
Totally.
Like Richard Donner is an auteur, but I would say that like Richard Donner is kind of a craftsman first, which I say with no disrespect, right? But he really is like a guy that like he made Superman. He made The Goonies. He's all over the map in terms of the kind of movies.
Right?
The Omen.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love The Omen. But these movies are Joel Silver's movies, right? Like at the end of the day, he's the consistent voice. It's not all that different from Tom Cruise producing the Mission Impossible movies. Like he's really guiding the vision. So there's something really interested in him, like inserting his personal taste in a way
that fits so elegantly.
Totally.
Because to me, that's my favorite sequence, because you've just never seen anything like it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's so ambitious. The idea of like, we're going to take your headquarters and literally pull the foundations out from under it and pull your entire house down the hill. That bit is just thrilling.
Well, and it's also just like, we're not going to just take you down. We're going to ruin the whole fucking thing.
Yeah,
right?
destroy it, metaphorically destroy it from its foundations.
And a house,
repot the plant.
Yeah,
we're killing this. We're salting the earth for you South African racist fucks.
Yeah. You're going to destroy the thing that you call home. And also, early on in the movie, I think this is significant. Arjun says to them, like, this is South Africa. Like, get the fuck out of our
South
country.
African
like,
soil.
Yeah, so we're going to take you. We're going to take it down. Yeah,
it's so satisfying because it resonates on so many levels of like, no, this is America, which in 1989, you said was we could unify around these kind of issues.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's incredible, and like the killer instinct in Gibson is really special.
Yeah, the look in his eyes as he's seeing the destruction that he's caused.
This is like
it's top tier.
Yeah,
like
and also he's giving 150% in every single moment of this movie. Like he
it's
knew.
Amazing.
He's like, this is what I'm. When the obituary is previously the obituary, this would have been the top thing on there, but like because it is an absolutely defined,
it's him at peak movie star.
It never got better than this.
Yeah,
he's amazing,
especially as an action movie star.
Yeah. I mean, he made other good movies, and he's a great director, and but
yeah, as a sort of like women love him, guys love him. Action movie star, like this is in some ways the peak of.
Everyone talks about Tom Cruise's running. Mel Gibson runs like a motherfucker. I just need to say that.
He's amazing in this. Let's wrap up this section with the humor. I know we touched on it because I was going to reference the bomb under the toilet scene. I wondered if there's something that maybe we haven't mentioned that is your favorite, like funny moment or line.
Joe Pesci. All of it. I mean, I thought about the tagline for this a little bit, and I was like, it's a buddy movie where two buddies have to add a third buddy to the mix. Like I just think that like he's such a breath of fresh air. And this is before Goodfellas, right? Like it's kind of.
And Home Alone as well. He's that double whammy of 1990.
That's incredible. He is like amazing in this movie. And like you have to assume that like, like that moment when he's like, when they go to the hotel, we haven't even talked about this yet. And he's like, we're going to take that room over here. And he like takes Murtaugh's hands off his mouth. He's like, actually, I already have my stuff in this room. Why don't you guys take it? Okay, I'm the smallest guy here. Okay. Like it's obnoxious, but it's so lovable.
Yeah.
And you want them to save him. I mean, they fuck you at the drive-thru is one of the funniest things that's ever happened. I think that's so
that becomes
funny.
A runner throughout the series.
Yeah, totally. They always like let Pesci cook, And I just love how he's like, okay, I'm not eating the tuna. Like, it's very funny.
That whole bit, it's something I just love about these cop movies that is the cozy vibes. It's where like they're on the case and the gang are together, either the squad or the two partners or whatever, and they're just when they stop and get food.
And it slows it down and it lets you kind of just
exist
lets you
in
breathe,
the movie. And it invites you to like you feel like you're hanging with them. Like, let's go get the frog dogs in the hard way. Let's go get the beaver from Alien Nation.
God, so my two picks for funniest, my favorite sequence in this whole movie, from a comedy perspective, is the Alphonse going to the South African consulate. And that amazing actor being like, because you're black.
He's coming up.
That's really good. And just the free South Africa, you dumb son of a bitch.
You dumb son of a bitch.
Like, and then Riggs sneaks in underneath. And I just like, he's so funny in the scene when he's like, that's a really nice piece of hardware. Where'd that come from? South Africa? Like, it's just like.
Riggs is amazing in that scene.
Eeny, meeny, miny, hey-mo! And he shoots and it's a Three Stooges joke when they grab Pesci's nose and twist it, like the Three Stooges vibe. I mean, like, it's crazy that one of the greatest action movies ever made is also like a comedy.
Yeah. And a really hilarious comedy. But even the genius of it where the two things sort of intersect is that toilet scene, because it's like, it's such a funny concept, but it's also terrifying. And it's like, that's brilliant action comedy conceptualizing a bomb on a toilet.
When the guy comes up and he's wearing the like full face mask and he's wearing the like suit and like he and Murtaugh make eye contact, it's just like, it's such a funny little like, he's near my ass, so he's got this like full like it's just subtly brilliant, but it's like that scene is the Eye of the Duck scene of the movie. I think because it's perfect, sorry, guys, we need to pay you residuals, Adam and Dom, but it's like
they should be paying us. We're advertising them enough.
Yeah, exactly. But it has this certain amount of like love and comedy at its core. It's the quintessential, maybe the quintessential scene of the entire series, honestly, is that
well said. Well, let's take a quick break and then wrap things up with our favorite section of the show, the 48 Hours Oscars. We'll be right back. And we're back with our last favorite final section of the show. But they what do they do at the drive-thru?
Fuck you at the drive-thru. They know you're miles away before you're going to get shut up.
He's not wrong.
That was too loud. Sorry, guys.
The 48 Hours Oscars, aka the Action Movie Awards. You know what we do here. The first one is the Nolte's Scarf Award for Best Fit. There's only one winner.
Let's hear it.
Let me give you the other two.
Okay.
Before we get to the main event, that we know that's going to win. I want to give a shout out to Peter Vorstedt's Alan Partridge-esque blazer, featuring the blazer badge, the Alan Partridge tie and blazer badge combination set. It's totally Alan. Are you a fan of Partridge?
Oh my God, Steve Coogan is like one of my favorite characters.
In the original series, there was a whole episode which was hilarious.
I love Alan Partridge.
Alan goes to Paris and has the delusion that he understands fashion, and he creates this. He has a look. He does a whole thing where he models down the Champs-Elysees wearing a green blazer with the Alan Partridge like family logo on it. It's called sports casual, his look.
If I may, I think Steve Coogan is one of the greatest British cultural exports of the last 30 years. I just think he is a genius in every conceivable way, and so funny and so British, and Alan Partridge is amazing. Like, wouldn't even made that connection because it's not inherent, but like Coogan forever, dude. I love that. He's
amazing. So Peter Vorstedt rocks a green blazer that definitely has Partridgian vibes. Leo silk pajamas.
Yeah,
I'd love to get a pair of silk pajamas.
You know,
I'm not a pajama guy.
Oh, my pajamas are just like a t-shirt at this point. But yes, you should get some pajamas. You know, it might
treat
be nice.
yourself.
Treat yourself.
But we know what the winner is, right?
Tell me.
It's Riggs' Letterman jacket.
So yes, I'm going to go a little further and say that this movie made me want to wear flannel. This is like Riggs's shirts.
It all began here.
Yeah, it really did. And just the button downs with the sleeves rolled up, and like the baseball hat. But yeah, that Leatherman is incredible. He looks. I would say the other best fit is Mel Gibson without a shirt on in this movie. He's just fit as fuck.
Yeah. But that jacket, is cool. At one point, he gives it to Rika.
Yeah.
I actually researched what it was because I was like, "Is this?" I think it has a big B on it. So I
had one of these jackets as a kid.
I was wondering if it was like UCLA Bruins. It's not. It was bespoke. It was designed specifically for this film. It's non-specific to any sports team.
I also just want to say that like, the poker scene when all the cops are wearing their like flannel shirts and they're unbuttoned and they're rolled up and they're just playing cards, and like there's something about best fit with the cigar hanging out of the side of Dean Norris's mouth that feels very very powerful to me. And yeah, I would just say that like Derek O'Connor's suits are immaculate in this movie. He looks amazing. He looks
really, really
and he can
cool.
still do kung fu and shit in those. I don't know if that's actually him, but
I don't
it certainly
think
looks
that's
like
him. But it's so well cut.
It's
and
seamless. The editing of this movie and the look.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't even said it, but this movie looks unfucking believable. Yeah,
it's so great.
This is a god tier piece of filmmaking.
The Reggie Hammond Exceptional Thief Award for stealing the film.
Oh boy,
tough category.
Yeah,
I've nominated 4.
Yeah,
Joss Ackland as Arjen Rudd, Derek O'Connor as Peter Vorstedt, Patsy Kensick as Rika, and Joe Pesci as Leo Getz.
You got to give it to Pesci because I think he redefines what this franchise is about from this movie on. I mean, and I love how they integrate him. I love how they're like, you're gonna go to the consulate and kind of like, I think he allows the movies to become a comedy. He finds this like really I don't know how much of it improvised, how much of it is him, but like this is the beginning of a absolutely legendary run from Pesci, and the movies become more special because of Joe Pesci, I think.
Yes, he definitely adds something new to it. So I think I'd be hard pressed to disagree. Although I think Derek O'Connor is a very close second.
Totally, I would agree. And Ackland they're all great.
They're all great.
It doesn't work without Ackland. Ackland is and it's a, really quickly, I don't want to belabor this, but it's a nice shift from the kind of like military stylings of the first film. It's like a little, I say this in quotes because they're racist fucks, classier, and like a little more like, they're a little more dangerous in a way that Riggs and Murtaugh aren't used to.
General McAllister is not that memorable in the first film.
No, you're right.
You remember Joshua.
Yeah,
he's vivid. But these guys are vivid.
Yeah, except it is really great when Riggs calls him a shadow company pussy in the first movie. I'll never get him. I encountered some of you shadow company pussies in Saigon.
It's funny. Just a side note. Now, at the moment, because it's been hot, I've been sleeping with the ceiling fan on.
Yeah.
So that every day I'll wake up and I'll just go, Saigon. Shit.
It is actually really interesting that how little this movie references Vietnam compared to the first
doesn't
film.
Touch it.
No, it doesn't touch it at all. Maybe
Yeah.
that's part of it too, because like the first movie treats Vietnam as this like mythic event, and maybe Riggs is over it, a little bit. God, these movies fucking kick ass.
So great. All right, the David Patrick Kelly Award for Most Valuable Weasel.
Ooh.
again, Joe Pesci is nominated as Leo Getz.
Okay,
He's kind of. I mean, he is. He's a weasel.
Yeah, he might have to walk out of it with 2 awards.
Maybe so, and he can do one of his incredibly terse acceptance speeches.
It's my honor. Well, yeah.
It's my privilege. Thank you.
Incredible.
What a fucking king.
What incredible.
The world's shortest Oscar speech.
He was supposed to be in this. Louis C.K. did this series called Horace and Pete that was absolutely incredible, and Alan Alda played this part as like his racist, shitty uncle, and he's amazing in it. And Louis C.K. tried to get Joe Pesci to do it. And Joe Pesci was like, "Get out of my life, you fuck!" Like, he just wouldn't do it. And like, they had like 3 meetings, and Pesci was like, "I just can't. I can't. Like, my life is about my family."
Doesn't want to work. You know,
and then
it takes a lot for him to come back.
And then he comes back and he's God tier in The Irishman. He's amazing.
Yeah, and he did Bob's movie, The Good Shepherd. Right?
Yeah.
It's like he only does it for.
Well,
and
this
group.
run that he has in the 90s is just, I mean, my cousin Vinny, get out of here. Amazing stuff.
He's amazing. So I've also nominated Mark Rolston as Hans, who is the initial guy who loses the crew. Yeah, it happens, Mr.
Jeez, you have to do like a Lethal Weapon too. Like,
because I've watched a lot of District 9. So, like, get the cat food! Get the cat food!
Oh my God. I mean, they're not at all the same accent, but there's like, I don't know, there's like a
It's such a fun one to do.
Really fun to do. Maybe because of this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think the two things, I think the prawns and this kind of put South Africa on the cinematic map. The other one I want to nominate is the aforementioned Jim Piddock as the consulate envoy.
Oh my
The guy
God.
who goes, but you're Blick.
You don't want to move. Listen to your friend here.
He's an interesting cat. You know about this dude?
I know. I recognize him, but I couldn't place him.
Pops up a lot. You might recognize him from a bunch of Christopher Guest movies. He's appeared in many of those. He's one of the squad. He's worked forever. He's in Friends. He has in one of the episodes where he's like a theater director that Joey is trying to.
Oh, that guy has such theater director vibes.
Really funny.
Yeah.
But what I found fascinating about him is he's also a writer of some note. Wrote the stories for a couple of big popular movies, The Tooth Fairy with Dwayne Johnson and The Man with Sam Jackson and Eugene Levy. But what really blew my mind is that he wrote the 1992 erotic thriller / neo-noir Traces of Red, starring James Belushi and Lorraine Bracco.
Did Travis Woods just knock on the front door of this?
We conjured him.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Hey guys,
I've written a 28-page missive on Traces of Red."
Well, we love him. Yeah. That is core. Wood core.
So, yeah, indeed. So, interesting dude. Who's your pick for David Patrick Kelly Award for MVW?
We got to give it to Pesci. He's got to walk out because like there's not going to
an Oscar in each hand.
Yeah, I mean it's his privilege. Thank you. No, he's wonderful. He's wonderful.
Fantastic.
I mean, he redefines the series in a way that few people could.
He levels it up.
Someone that I just want to shout out because she's going to almost disappear from the movies after this, and it makes me really sad. Is Tracy Wolf? She's in
decent
3,
part
but it's
in 3.
Small. It's kind of like they go to her workplace.
Yeah, where
they think she's being and it's like I like that continuity is there, but like I was in love with Brienne Murtaugh as like an 11-year-old boy. I just like was in love with her, and I love the kids in this movie. I love Nick.
I love that they never recast them. I love that they kept the team together, the family together. I love that you get to see them grow up.
That's the best, dude.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's like so moving that it's them.
Well,
through.
the scene where Roger's teaching Nick how to shave. Oh, are you kidding me? Let's move on.
I feel like Thelma and Louise right now.
All right, the best gratuitous nude scene. We sort of mentioned it. There is only one.
Riggs' ass in the.
Well, Riggs and Rika get it on in the trailer.
There is a lot of TNA in this movie in those scenes, which I'm fine with. I like it. I'm into it.
And then the last one is the Roxanne Award for Best Musical Moment. Although this isn't, I don't think it has a ton of needle drops.
The score is amazing.
Are there any moments of the wonderful Michael Kamen score that you're particularly partial to?
I don't know when it comes up, but that kind of like trumpet, that kind of like thing. I just think it works really well and it's really beautiful. And like this, the third film has the Clapton song in the opening and like.
And Sting, I think.
It just doesn't do it for me in the same way the Kamen score does. I mean, I think the Kamen score like defines these movies, you know? So it's like, I like the Clapton, but like I was never like, oh man, I need the Clapton stuff. I just think that the Kamen score is like.
I mean, I think Clapton collabed on all of them. But it's much more writ large in the third one.
Yeah.
So, and they have that long opening sequence with the fire that makes the three.
Oh my God.
Which I love.
Yeah. I love Rene Russo.
And we'll get to it. We'll get to plenty of time. Don't worry.
Woo!
The bit that I think is really cool, that's unique to this film, and I think it must be the South African influence, is when Pieter Vorstedt comes out to do the kung fu. There's a sort of like African drum.
Yeah, that shit's amazing.
Influence that's completely unique to that sequence, and it feels like it's part of like his culture. It's very subtle, but it's really effective.
That is really good. You know what else? A shout out to Julie Adams, who is the South African dialect coach, because the accents in this movie are amazing. Is the very incongruous moment when you hear Riggs as he's shooting one of the guys saying the names of everybody who the police have killed. You know, that like it's playing above him murdering. It's like Rika, and you can hear all the names as he's shooting them. Do you remember what I'm talking about? It's towards the end of the film when they're in the sort of the like loading dock, and he's shooting one guy, and every time he pulls the trigger, you can hear the name of one of the people that the police, of one of the cops who have been killed, or Vicky. And every gunshot coincides with a name in his head. Have you not noticed that before?
No.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing stuff.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
I gotta watch that again.
Yeah.
We'll have to do another episode.
Yeah. Okay. We can do it.
4 hours. All right. Let's. That's it for all our awards. So next time on Die Hard on a Blank, we have The Last Castle with a special guest, Robert Redford, James Gandolfini.
I wonder if James Gandolfini's in it. I wonder who the guest could be. That's weird.
Put your thinking caps on there. And then next time on 48 Hours of Buddy Movies, talk about God tier filmmaking, Black Rain.
Holy shit. So it's good to go from like an absolute Liam special to like the Philliest Philly special of all Philly. Like this is the Philly cheesesteak of Philly specials.
Dude, if you thought I was emotional today, I can't tell you how madly in love I am with Black Rain, having just revisited it for the infinite amount of time.
Yeah.
But it still it like blew me out of my socks.
My mother has a thirst for Michael Douglas. She's like, somehow it came up recently. She was like, oh, he's the most handsome man. I'm like, ooh,
amazing,
Mom, stop.
Amazing. Do you have any? So that's what's coming up next. But I want to give you the chance to sort of to play us out here. To quote Bill, play us out to end the show.
I think I got it. I've never done this before, but I think I got to dedicate this episode to my dad. Just like this is like a huge formative part of our relationship, these movies. And you know, I think that like the final thing that I'll say is, and I think you'll appreciate this too, is that like the older you get and you look back on these movies that maybe when you were a kid you were just like kind of like and watch them for their enjoyment, is that they do give you values and they do kind of redefine and help you think about the world. And I'm glad that like this is one of those movies, as opposed to, I don't know what other movie it could be, but like the humanity and the humanity on display in this movie, despite it kind of being an action picture, so to speak, is like probably what gave me the impetus to be like, oh, like movies and film can be about something. They're not just Batman or Superman. They can be about like, or just cops and robbers. They can be about morality. And so I'll just finish by saying, fuck South African racists.
Well said. I have nothing to add. It's a beautiful epilogue for this episode that I've loved doing with you today, and I've loved getting all of your passion in the can. So thank you all for listening. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for subscribing, for
tell your
engaging
friends.
with
tell
us.
Your lethal weapon heads.
Let's hook more people into our little axe banging cult here.
Let's just get let's do it. Let's get them. I don't have a joke. I'm running out of steam here.
That's all right. You left it all on the field today, buddy.
We'll be back next time with the greatest mullet, the second greatest mullet in the history of cinema.
Hey guys, it's Phil.
And Liam.
And this month, Die Hard on a Blank is taking a quick hiatus.
We're getting too old for this shit.
Well, yes, but specifically we're focusing on other things and taking a well-needed break.
But we know how hard it is for you to not hear our voices.
That's right, Liam, and that's why we're offering you a special treat.
If you visit patreon.com/48 hours of buddy movies, you can get a $5 subscription for just $3.
That's just $3 a month for new episodes, as well as the entire back catalogue of 48 hours of buddy movies. And this promotion is running for the entire month of August.
And us, we'll be sitting on the beach, earning 20%.
So enter DHOAB Break 40 at patreon.com/48 hours of buddy movies anytime this month.
That's DHOAB BREAK 40.
See you on the Patreon.